Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us. I am Russ Groover. I work with Right Track Marketing, and we are the Mid-Atlantic rep for Bosch Communication Division. And I do have a booth next door. If you guys are in this room, then you have at least some interest in audio, and we appreciate you for being here today. Make sure you come by the booth while you're here and give me one of those little tickets that you have on the back of your badge so that we can raffle you or put you in the raffle for the speakers that we're raffling off tomorrow afternoon, I do believe. So come and see me. I'd love to talk with you all about audio. I'm introducing Preston Stevenson. Over the last 8 or 9 years, he has worn several hats at Bosch, and up until last month, he wore like 5 or 6 hats all at once. He's changed his job title now, and I don't think they actually have a real title for it, but that one works, Senior Technology Solutions Manager. But he is very hands-on with very high-level paging systems, working all over the country and sometimes traveling around the world. So he's going to talk with you about the different levels, and please give him a warm welcome.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks. I always start with, it's nice to be back home. I'm originally here from Virginia, so it's always good to be back in this part of the world. Live in the frozen state now in Minnesota, so it is good to travel, right? Get out of there. Don't spend any time there, especially winter's coming. Had our first snow last week. You guys can feel bad for me. It's okay. We're going to cover a little bit of audio. I know we've done this before, but I want to kind of unravel the different layers of what we have at Bosch because it is complex. And when we look at this, you'll see, okay, we're really calling this now communications. Right? It is much more than just PA or what we've always referred to it. So looking here at the left-hand side, this is where Bosch Building Technology all comes together, right? You've got security, you've got safety, you've got the software side, access control, intrusion. All of these different segments fall in what we call building technology. Yeah? Under the safety section, you're going to see a part called public address. That's really where communication falls into. But you're probably thinking, okay, communications, what does that really mean? It's all of these different segments here on the right, all of these different pieces of the pie. So what we're going to spend a little time on is Bosch. That falls in public address on our install audio piece there in the top right. Bottom right's Electro-Voice, right? This is a brand really focuses more towards the installed sound, foreground music, microphones, and portable speakers, right? So these speakers here on the side, yes, they're Electro-Voice, but they're really a Bosch product. We've got Dynacord. This is the electronic side of the business. So this is where all of the digital signal processing takes place that comes into the audio platforms. We've got RTS. This is the intercom platform. So if you've watched stuff like the news, all the IFBs, all the trunking that goes for all that real-time communication, that's where RTS falls into place. And then Telex. This is what we have for aviation, so the headsets for pilots, as well as our two-way radio product for dispatch, for the 911 operation centers. So all of those different things come together to make what we call sound great, right? So whether it's Bosch Electronics, still being partnered with EV speakers, right? An EV microphone, all of these different pieces come together. And that's really why all of those brands are still, because they're known in the industry for those brands. So you might see, when you go next door, you'll see a PA430T, that's an EV horn, right, for paging, but it's being driven by Bosch Electronics, yeah? So we started a couple years ago moving things into networks, right? I would say, okay, video was probably the first one to do that. Then intrusion went behind. The audio side, we were a little slower. We've been a little slower. And now we're finally getting there, right? Making things networkable. So what you're going to see as we go through this is both IP speakers. That's the first piece of it. As well as you're going to see our, what we call our IP public address system, really focused around mass notification. So let's just take a look at a quick building here, right? We're in a hotel today, so figured it kind of made a little sense. All of these locations, or all of these different areas you could find in this building, So whether we're looking at for the restaurant, guest floors, right, meeting spaces, bar, parking garage, all of these areas all need audio, right? We just had a fire alarm. They all need to know what's going on. They all have unique applications. So within the audio system, we've actually redesigned what we call, it's called Dante Audio, yeah? At Bosch, we call it Omnio, okay? If any of you guys don't know what Dante Audio is, it's an open standard, okay? So it's like for your phone systems, it's like SIP, right? It's like OnViv for video, right? It's a standard that Bosch is a part of. We use Dante Audio. We call it Omnio. Why do we call it Omnio? Because we're adding a layer of encryption on top of that, right? Going back to that data security side of it. So with all of that now, it means, okay, we can move these systems or move this audio from system to system, from area to area based on what we need. So we've got public address systems over here, right? Being able to do announcements. We're in a ballroom, right? We need something a little more. Amplifier looks a little different. Dynacord amplifier, EV speakers, larger sound than some overhead ceiling speakers, yeah? And then paging stations. If we were downstairs in a small conference room, you might see conferencing, little portable discussion units. All of these things have unique applications, but more importantly, they all need to live in the same ecosystem. I can utilize the same amplifiers that I'm now using for fire, for mass notification, for evacuation purposes, as well as commercial audio or background music. So, some new products to take a look at. First one being is our IP speaker. I know some of you guys, we've talked about this for a little bit. We're happy to finally release, come in two different models. Yeah, the first one's going to be based on a SIP platform. We'll work with all of the cameras from the Alarm Task Script engine. So what does that mean? I can trigger messaging based on events. Yeah. Also has SIP built in, long throw and short throw. So two different models. Yeah. Both PoE and PoE+. So really excellent speech reproduction from that speaker itself. And that's where we take a little bit of our engineering team from the EV side to say, okay, we need to now make a horn sound good, right? So we bring these two together. We take our Dynacord guys in Germany to design the amp module that's going to go in the back of the speaker, right? So that's where all of this comes together. DSP built in, completely configuration-based, web browser-based, so really easy to configure. Line in and line out, we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. Internal message storage, so now I can store the message directly in the speaker. Microphone, uses the intercom, can call it via SIP, two-way conversation back and forth. Amplifier, task script, SIP for that two-way piece, and then of course, that it is PoE. What does that look like? Yeah? So, camera today, nothing's changing, just like you're used to. Analytics, all of that's exactly like you have. Program analytics, camera, watching an area. Now what's going to be different is that VCA event in that camera is going to tell that speaker to play a message, yeah, or multiple messages, or a series of messages based on those different events.
And that can just be on the speaker. I don't have to put an amplifier or anything else.
You need nothing.
I can record it like that, and that's going to send off my message.
And that's going to send off your message. And that is designed to be camera to speaker with nothing in between. Also supports multiple cameras to single speaker. So if that's something that you need as well, you have multiple cameras and you want to detect something, activate message on speaker. Yeah. Talkback communication with SIP. But with that, we wanted to take the microphone a little bit further, right? We wanted to use this more as a two-way device. Does have a physical hard disconnect internally if you have areas that don't allow microphones. Have to state the obvious. The functionality goes away when you get rid of the microphone. But you do get a couple things. What does that give you the ability to do? You can tell that speaker to play a chirp, right, on a schedule. It's going to play that chirp. That microphone's going to listen for it. If that microphone does not detect it, now we're going to report that as a fault, right? That it's not supervised. We know the speaker's either broken or the microphone's broken, right? So it has a self-test. Noise level triggering. So if you have a loud ambient noise, something happens there, can activate a message. But what I like is this very bottom one, the automatic volume control. Yeah? Can adjust that speaker volume automatically based on the ambient noise. So now I walk up, come up to a gate. There, I'm having issues. Security guard calls down and says, hey, why are you there? I can communicate back and forth, right? I'm just walking there. But when I come up there in that semi-truck, right, now it's a lot louder, right? We've got that motor running. Same thing. That speaker can automatically increase the volume based on the ambient noise, message, broadcast, and then turn off. Automatically. Automatic volume control. We refer to it as AVC. Yeah? Look at SIP. We're going to do SIP a little bit different. This is so that it works with a whole bunch of the different VMSs that are out there. So we're going to have SIP with a PBX standpoint as well as a peer-to-peer. Yeah? So if you don't have a SIP server, use something like Sipelia with Genetec. You can call directly to that speaker without actually using a SIP server. If you want to log it with your phone system, you can also log it with SIP server. Yeah? Taking that a step further. So normally, right, you get a phone system, right? And, you know, I'm going to pick on the guys here on the front. Your extension 100, your extension 101. Anytime I call 100, I know his phone's going to ring. If I call 101, his phone's going to ring. Yeah? Same thing. If I go 102, 103, 104, 105. But the way we've designed the speaker is the speaker can actually have multiple extensions. You're probably like, okay, why would a speaker need multiple extensions? Anytime I call it, I want it to answer on 100, and that's it. But what we want the ability to do is if I need to call that, or I have a system or a VMS that says, okay, I can do outbound calls, I can say, okay, 100 is my live message, I'm talking back and forth. But anytime that speaker receives a call on 101, maybe it plays a message, right? Or 102 plays a different message. So now you can assign multiple extensions to the same speaker, and they do different things. So from a security standpoint, I can do quick dial 105, boom, that hits my speaker and hang up the phone. That's a message activation. I don't need to sit there. I don't need to make an announcement. So that's really where these different SIP extensions come into play. So we're taking that a level further within the speaker. Yeah? Looking at this, you're going to see here that there's two different classes that we talked about, the PoE and the PoE+. Really what that's giving us is about 3 dB more of output on that amplifier itself. So nothing changes there as far as the frequency response or any of that fun stuff. I am going to pick on the fun little word here. I'm not even going to try and say it. We always call it ASA, After Sale Assistance, right? That's always what we've kind of called our repairs department. But what is that? Yes, it's that word there. Again, not going to try and say it. But it's what we've done is we've taken this up from an ABS plastic to an ASA plastic to make it more stable outdoors. Because it is a horn. It's going to be beating in the sun. It's going to be in harsh environments to be able to utilize those things. Yeah.
Any special switch
Nope. It's PoE or PoE plus. I would say it's looking for a true 48. I would need to check on that one. But it is standard PoE or PoE plus. And it's the same speaker if you use PoE or PoE plus. It'll auto-negotiate and then just give you that 3 dB. It's not like you have to specify, am I ordering the wide throw at PoE or the wide throw at PoE plus and then the other models. Yeah? So just kind of giving you a quick look at what that looks like, right? On the back of the speaker itself, you remove the back cover. Now you got the PoE connection. But what I want to point out is there also is the general purpose output and the general purpose input on the back of these. Yeah? So that means if I have something locally that I want to activate a message, I have the ability to do that. Or the other side of that, when a message is playing, if this is in a loud environment, I could have a light or something that I illuminate. So I can tie that general purpose output to any message or any event, and I can activate that light while the message is playing. Yeah. There is an amplifier module. literally looks just like the circuit board that's in the back of the speaker. So nothing's changed there other than it's in a little enclosure. The back of it has a little DIN rail mount if you need that DIN rail mount. Same exact stuff that you have there. What's different? Yeah? Because we're not going to make all the right ceiling or all the right surface mount speakers to do this. Gives you the ability to use any standard speaker that you connect to that. Yeah? So if you have a wall mount speaker, or if you've got a vestibule, right, where you have issues in a vestibule and you want to use a small surface or even a small ceiling speaker, that's where the module really comes into play. So you can connect any speaker to that. The other piece of that is this module itself also has an analog output. Yeah? So if I have an existing PA system, that means I can move that module in, utilize this technology, but then feed the existing PA system in my facility. Correct. Yep, it's a hybrid gap, for sure. Nothing changes here other than we have the speaker output on the back of that. Same GPI, same GPO, analog ins and outs, and then of course the RJ45 for connection. So we're going to shift gears a little bit over to Presensa. How many of you guys have heard of Presidio? Presidio? Well, you knew the next one that we came out with was going to start with a P, right? We got Plena Easy, Plena Matrix, Paviro, Presidio, and now it's Presensa. So Presidio, after 20 years, has reached its end of life, right? We are doing phase out of that, being replaced with Presensa. So Presensa is the replacement, really leaps and bounds forwards as far as functionality and design. And I think you'll see a little bit of that as we go through kind of some of the unique pieces of this. Talked about it a little bit before with the cybersecurity stuff, but it really is built on the IP architecture. So you'll see that every device is network based. Which means, okay, you're like, okay, that's audio. It's Dante, but it's Omnio on the Bosch side. You might be thinking, okay, well, what does that mean for audio that's coming in? If you're bringing in audio from a third-party system, even if it's coming in Dante, as soon as it hits the controller, we're going to convert that audio from an unencrypted stream to an encrypted stream within the ecosystem of Bosch. Yeah? Nothing hard. We're automatically going to encrypt that audio for you. We redesigned the amplifiers, and I don't know how many of you guys have dealt with Presidio amplifiers in the past. Yeah? We had a 1x500. You're my math guy, right? All right. We had a 1x500. We had a 2x250. We had a 4x125. We had an 8x60. 4 different amplifiers. We also had power amps, smart amps, and basic amps. So now we had 8. 4 and 4. 2 different models of each. We had 8. But then on top of that, we had 120 volt versions. Yeah. We had 220 versions. Then we had our friends in Japan that had a 100 volt version. Right? So how many different amplifiers do we have? Too many. That's a good answer. Or the other answer I like is never the right one on the truck when we need it. Right? So what we said is, okay, we really want to redesign the way we do this because, you know, especially international projects, you saw in there we do a lot with cruise ships, right? Those are different voltages, even different parts of the ship sometime, the way they operate. So what we decided is we're going to take Presensa. We want to really scale the way we do that, and we want to take it down to 2. Yeah? And we want 2 amplifiers globally. So what we've done is we've come out with a 4-channel and an 8-channel. But the neat part about this amplifier is it's 600 watts on the enclosure. Right? So if I get an 8-channel amplifier, 600 watts. If I get a 4-channel amplifier, 600 watts. Yeah? But the amplifier is smart enough to know how to divvy up that power based on what's connected to the back of it. So if I'm going to use 100 watts on one channel, 100 watts on another channel, right? That's 200 watts. We're going to put 200 watts on channel 3, 400 watts, right? Now we've got 200 watts left over. What does that mean? I can tell you there's projects out there right now that we've needed 250 watts for a corridor, right? A big section. But then we said, okay, we have an extra 250 watt amplifier channel. Let's use it for the restrooms. It's there, right? But now we have the ability to actually use what we need. If we're using all that power up in the first 4 amps, or first 4 channels, we don't need to order the 8 channel. If we're doing a whole bunch of small zones, then we order the 8 channel, right? So we have the ability to adjust that power as we need. No single point of failure. Yep. It's auto sensing. No, it's auto sensing. Yeah, it'll auto adjust based on the load. Yep. You can't do both. Yeah. And also going back to that other side of it, where we had all these additional amplifiers, we had 70 volt, 100 volt, 50 volt, all automatic in the new amplifiers. Yeah. No single point of failure. And this is critical that we have no single point of failure. When you look at that amplifier, 4-channel amplifier, there's actually a spare amplifier sitting inside of that enclosure. Yeah? So not only have we gone from a 2-rack space amplifier to having another 2-rack space amplifier sitting there in the event that something is to fail, it's built into that single amplifier. There's a spare amplifier in there ready to take over. Primary and secondary Ethernet. So gives you the ability to have 2 separate network connections to the back of that amplifier in the event that you are to lose a primary or secondary Ethernet connection, the amplifier will still stay connected. Primary and secondary power supplies built into the amplifiers. So I think you'll kind of see the thing here. No single point of failure. Yeah? To the point, we've actually incorporated Class A loops on the speaker lines. So if you say, okay, I want to do a Class A loop on that speaker line because somebody might cut that down the hall or something might get broken, we're going to detect that. Yes, we're going to report it as a fault, but now we're going to send it out both sides so that message can be delivered. You're still getting the message. New user interface. I think this is just a little bit of the, people want feedback now, right? They don't want yellow or green light. So you'll see on the desktop in the wall mount call stations, it'll display, okay, successful, talk now. We'll let you know if you have faults enabled, right? That something's broken out there, just depending on how you assign that. It is a touch screen. To be able to adjust music and those different things if needed. Still have the tactile buttons, right? Still a requirement. First responders coming in with gloves still need to be able to press buttons, right? So you still have the hard buttons with the extensions on the side. We also have ambient noise sensors. This is something new that we did not have before. We had automatic volume control, yeah, but it was an analog microphone that ran back to the system on Presidio. But we have a true ambient noise sensor with Presenso. MEMS sensor, PoE powered, lives in the device. What does it do? It has the ability to work in 2 different modes. So it used to be before, ambient noise went up, we raised the volume, right? So that's what we did so that the page could always be heard. Use it quite a bit in airports, right, or subway stations. Trains coming in, a lot of noise, page goes off, we need the system louder. Within this one, we also have what we call tracking mode. So this is the first time that we can actually adjust background music if needed. So something's going on, right? People come in, foyer, lobby of the hotel gets occupied more. We can turn that volume up a little bit. When it gets quieter, turn that back down. Moving into the world now of what we call virtual call stations. We refer to it as the APAS, What does that give me the ability to do? Gives you the ability to make an announcement from a physical device, right? So whether it's, as long as it's got a web browser, so iPad, tablet, laptop, desktop, as long as I have connectivity to the actual APAS itself, you can make announcements in the facility, yeah? It is dual NIC, right? So that doesn't mean that the PA system can now stay isolated and this can be on a separate network from that standpoint for actual control over that. You know, we've got a large project going on right now with a large airport. I've got VPN connectivity. So any of our testing, we want to do test announcements, right? I have the ability to do that. So as long as I have connectivity to the system, I can make announcements. We also have incorporated with AWS, so the Amazon Plally platform, that you can actually do text-to-speech. So if you have a situation or a commercial building where they want to do a bunch of text-to-speech stuff, they have the ability to do that. Now, the next slide, I think, is the most exciting part of Presensa, right? We've been through a lot of PA, right? We worked on Presidio, we had Paviro, and all of these things. All of these were always public address systems, right? Or paging systems. With Presensa, we have achieved UL 864 and UL 2572. So that means I can now use it for fire as well as mass notification and evacuation. Yeah? Sometimes they like to geek out a little bit, so I just put a little thing here with Meckler system so you can kind of see, okay, what does that look like, right? Panel up here, we're now executing announcements. Yeah? From fire, yes, UL 864 with anybody. UL 2572 is tied to the G-Series panel today. Yeah, and that's for the 2572, but for the 864, any fire panel. Just did a quick little image here of kind of what that looks like with some of the keypads. So Tom has released, looks just like the B926F, but it's a B926M, so the mass notification. A few little LEDs changed up here to actually make it an M&S keypad on top of that. And then the first responder panel here to be able to, again, make announcements, steer evacuations, all of that fun stuff. Now, we are going to expand what we do within Presensa. And here in Q4, we're going to release what we call the PixieCore Edge Controller. Yeah? Many of you guys ever heard of Rexroth? No? So this is the Bosch side of hydraulics and building big hydraulic automation. Yeah? So they do a lot of factory stuff, what they call, I believe it's called Factory or Industrial 4.0. We're going to leverage what they're doing there with this intelligent control. So when you look at that, this actual device comes from our building automation or our factory automation stuff. If you go to Rexroth, you can look up, they refer to it as kind of the Control X device. We're calling it the PixieCore device. Same device, still coming from Bosch, coming off the same line. But what's unique is this Intelligent Control 2.0, right, that we're adding on to this. It's an app, right? Or we call it a snap in Bosch world, but it's an app that gets loaded on. What does this give you the ability to do? Gives you the ability to now leverage and activate messages from all of these different systems. So that means, okay, if I have a legacy Presidio system and I need to interconnect with a Presensa system, I have the ability to do that. Or if I want to trigger messages to a full 70-volt PA system, either from an intrusion panel or directly based off video analytics, I have the ability to do that. Yeah. So this is what the Intelligent Control 2.0 is going to give us, that ability now to bring all these disparate Bosch systems or building technology devices into one ecosystem. So now we're just going to take a look at a few examples, right, of what this looks like. And I pick on myself a little bit that it's probably the most basic slide I've ever had to make at Bosch. But you know, it really is important. right? It really shows the power of a PA system. So start in the top right? Distribution center warehouse. Ability to page, we need somebody. A truck has arrived, right? That's important things for them, right? Be able to leverage that PA system. Now, take the bottom right? Entrance to an airport. A lot of different things go into an airport, whether it's messaging out front, right? Don't leave your car parked. Poor Matt, right? He goes through TSA, he leaves his laptop, right? We need to make an announcement. Now that PA system, we know he's post-security, right? So we don't need to talk out to the parking lots and all that. So now the PA system now needs to adapt, right? Same thing. I'm there on time, didn't leave anything at the security checkpoint. I'm down at the gate. They're now boarding. That same PA system now needs to scale down, right? And be able to grab a small zone, right? So that really shows the power of a PA system in an enterprise environment there. So you're wiring, right? You're wiring all those subzones, and then you have a button that's just a group of clusters, right? So it's getting clustered together, whether it's concourses, whether it's building-wide, whether it's, just a TSA section, or whether it's just like the lounges, right? You have the ability just to grab those different zones or groups of zones. The bottom left one, right? A factory. I like to say, okay, what's the most important thing here? Probably is the break bells, right? Everybody wants to go to lunch, right? They don't want to miss those break bells. So that's what's important, Sometimes there's critical announcements we need to make in these environments. All three of those could be large groups of people. But what I like also is about this top left one, right? It's a hospital, right? That could be one person, right? We need Dr. Hart to report to such and such room. We need to know that announcement's been delivered, that it was delivered immediately, and that the system was fault-free. Yeah? So even though we call it mass notification, it really is truly life safety when it comes down to one person. I'm not going to spend much time on these, but really what I want you to take away from this, and we'll go through these different things, is that it's all the same stuff over and over, right? It's all the same components. However we put them in the blender, however we implement them, however we install them, however we program them, it's all the same stuff. So whatever we do here in an education environment versus if we want to do something exterior with cameras, activate messaging, right? People can be out there during the day, but maybe you've got that ball field, right? AstroTurf, that's some expensive stuff now, right? After hours, we don't want people out there, or after sunset or dark, right? Being able to activate messaging, right? All of these different things. We take all of the same stuff, now we just move it over to a manufacturing facility, right? A data center. Perimeter security is nothing different than what we were doing to protect that football field. Same thing inside, right? And I like to pick on this photo here because somebody placed an object here in this area here, right? We could activate a message there. Idle object, left behind, send a message to the security team, let them know. Commercial buildings, right? The building like we're in here today, same thing. You heard the fire alarm go off earlier, right? Being able to do paging, being able to do events, but also we move that same system into healthcare, right? Be able to do code calls, access control, commercial audio, all of those things. Yeah? So really it doesn't matter what the building is, right? Whether it's, a restaurant, whether it's a school, whether it's a large house of worship, government facilities, airports, right? All of these different things use the same accessories.